Hello, I'm Mike Moore, and welcome to the How to Win podcast. It is 2025. I trust you had a great year last year, a great holiday season. Tiffany, are you ready for 2025?
I am. Did you have a good year?
I had a great year.
Did it feel like the year went by
I
fast to
had a
you?
great year, and it flew by. I mean, it seemed like something escalated, enhanced, just caused the days to run into each other. But listen, I had a great holiday too, and I had a big
You
birthday.
did. Okay, so let me ask you, if you had to sum up 2024 in one word, what would it be? Because you had a bunch of milestones. You turned 70.
I turned 70.
Yes.
That was a milestone.
That was a milestone.
I had some wonderful meetings,
Speaking engagements.
Okay. And then I always love my How to Win fans.
Oh, yeah, because we
And
transitioned last year from you just teaching to interview style.
Right. We transitioned and brought you from behind the camera.
Yes.
And I know you enjoy Tiffany. Brought you from behind the camera, put you in front of the camera, and you look beautiful all the
thank
time.
you.
And you're smart and you're intelligent.
So if you had to sum up the year in one word, what would it be?
You know, my one word is faithful.
Okay, and why you
That
say?
God is faithful.
Okay.
He brought us to this level, and he's going to take us to a whole nother level. He's going to take you to a whole nother level in 2025. So, Tiffany, we're going to begin a discussion today on a topic that I am convinced everyone has an experience in, and that is regret. Now, we're going to talk about regret and overcoming it and finding peace. But I want you to get some backdrop and why we chose this subject at the beginning of 2025. Well, you know, if you don't deal with regret, it just goes into the next. It will follow you into your future. And I thought it would be great for us to talk about it so we can resolve all these issues of 2024 in our past so that we can have a clean slate for 2025. Also, my Answers That Work broadcast is moving from Friday to Thursday at 12 noon Central Time. So you want to check that out. And I'm going to be teaching on regret there, but I wanted us to discuss it. I wanted us to talk about regret because this is a whole different format.
Yeah.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. We're talking about overcoming regret and finding peace. So, Tiffany, when you hear the word regret, what comes to your mind? What do you think about it?
So when I think of the word regret, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is like a weight.
A waste?
Weight. WEIGAT.
Okay, a weight.
Yeah. So a weight that you feel from decisions that you have made in the past. So you kind of feel heavy because you feel like you can't really move past it, and also missed opportunity.
A weight and missed opportunities.
Yeah, and so I think the reason why people sometimes regret is such a big thing is because they feel weighed down, wishing that they could have, or like the what ifs, or wish I should have, could have, would have did something different. And then also a missed opportunity that they can't change.
Okay, so I think that's great. So right away we see that if we don't resolve regret, overcome it, then it becomes a weight that follows us into our future.
Yeah.
And you talked about missed opportunities. So have you ever had an issue or circumstance or a situation that you regretted in your past and it was keeping you from moving forward? Talk to us.
So listen, so we always get this topic, and I always we go over the topics and stuff together. And you mentioned that you wanted to talk about regret, so I wanted to just learn more about regret and get some more information. So as I was studying, I went back over my notes last night. Ooh, that had me up all night thinking about that regret.
You were up all
night. I said, "Ooh, child, you was in some regret." So I have had opportunities, whether it be from colleges, choices in colleges. I kind of, and I know people may not think it, but I think sometimes I have regret on the choice that I made as far as my career in college.
Well, that's interesting because your mother and I talked about your choice in terms of college career. I think we have some regrets about your college career, and I want to confess, fathers are a little more hands-on when it comes to their daughters.
Okay.
Okay, and our regret, your mom and my regret, we think we should have let you just kind of choose where you wanted to go. You're a free spirit. Okay. You do know that, right? like
this is good to know.
You went to Miami. Mm-hmm. You didn't know anybody. You had never been down there in terms of living, and you just went to Miami and did well. I mean, you adjusted to this big city, and I'm going to repent. Mm-hmm. I think you wanted to go to Atlanta. I'm not sure. You can tell us, but I think we were afraid of letting our baby girl, go out by herself out of the state.
This is interesting. Listen, y'all. We got Miss Pete behind the camera too. She here with us. So this is interesting. How the Lord is working all of this out. How He is working all of this out. So that is interesting. Okay, so you think you would have let me had the opportunity to go somewhere to a bigger city?
I think we were like most. Well, I can say like most dads. Mm-hmm. I think we sometimes are a little more protective of our daughters than we are of our sons. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, unfortunately, we don't look at their personalities and their maturity and all that. Yeah. We just have a rule that we're going to protect our girls, and then we just trust our boys to just do what they need to do.
Interesting.
And so in hindsight, I think you would have done well if you'd have left out.
It may have been God, because I probably wouldn't have came back. And I wouldn't be helping you on this podcast. So look, everything works out for the good.
It works out for the good. It works out for the good. So you probably, well, think about it. You went to Miami.
Yeah.
Were there any regrets that you went to Miami?
Oh no, I love Miami. I think I love Miami because I was able to live in a world with different cultures. So it wasn't just, I feel like in Alabama it can be black and white, and you may have one or two other. What times have changed a little bit? You have a few other ethnicities, but in Miami you have all types of ethnicities. So I enjoyed that experience. And then I enjoyed being in a bigger city. I do think that you have more opportunities in a bigger city. Okay. But I can't hate on Alabama.
Well, I didn't regret you coming back. Why did you come back to Birmingham?
You asked me to come work with you.
I asked you to come work with me because we had built the bridge. Yes. You majored in kinesiology. And so you had experience with that area, and I thought, you're going to work for somebody else that you could work for me.
Yeah. It's interesting. I probably would have changed my career choice, too.
Explain.
Because, kinesiology, it ain't really a lot you can do with that financially wise. I probably would have did something that you could make a little bit more money in. I probably would have chose something like in the tech world.
I got a whole different take on that.
Okay.
My take is you follow purpose and then you trust God to bless you financially. Yeah. Because there's going to always be provision connected with purpose, but that's another topic.
That's another subject. So when we talk about regret, why do you think it has such a big impact on our lives?
I think it has a great impact on our lives because regret is really looking back and wishing that I had done something differently. And so if you're dragging that mindset with you and that attitude with you, it's kind of hard to focus on your present, and it's hard to prepare for your future if you dragging the weight of regret. I missed this opportunity. I should have done this. I could have done this. And the problem with regret is that you can't undo it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't change the past. Now, you can ruminate, and that simply means to play it over and over in your mind. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, coulda, woulda, shoulda. I did the same thing with Alabama football. You know, we didn't make the playoff, and I was thinking, man, if we had have done this in this game, and if we had have done that, and if the coaches had have done that, think about it. That there's no benefit in ruminating and replaying something in your mind, a missed opportunity, because you can't change it. And that's why it's so heavy, it's weighty, because you cannot change the past. You can't undo it.
So we're going to unpack regret a little bit, but before we get into it, have you had any personal experiences where you made some choices and you regretted it?
A lot of them.
Really?
Yes. I made a lot. I was thinking about this subject too, and I thought about myself, and I went all the way back to high school, and then Peter's behind the camera. I thought about regrets in terms.
So what's one of the biggest ones to come to mind just off the bat right now?
Okay, I'm gonna go back to high school.
Okay.
In high school, I started wearing glasses, like I wear glasses now. Well, it wasn't popular. You know, it wasn't a lot of styles with glasses. They weren't big with glasses. So as a kid, maybe middle school, I started wearing eyeglasses playing baseball. Well, it was a professional baseball player that had glasses, so for me it was kind of cool to do that.
Yeah.
Well, when I became a high school student, I played basketball, and I didn't want to wear glasses. Nobody wore glasses playing basketball because they're going to knock the glasses off. And I went my whole senior year.
And you couldn't see?
I couldn't see. Man, listen, this is the honest God
And
truth.
you ended up going playing in college.
But let me tell you something. Man, I could ball. I could really ball. And there was high expectations that I was going to do great in high school. I did all right. I did all right. But there were times I couldn't see the clock.
That is hilarious.
I could not see. I couldn't see the goal. I knew where it was.
Could your coach or your teammates tell
well,
something
you
was
don't
going
tell
on?
anybody. I can't see nothing. I literally could not. You take off your glasses. You can see blurs. You can see where it is. And so that's how I played my senior. That's how I played my senior year.
Hilarious.
And so I think, man, if I'd have just found out about, I started wearing contacts my freshman year in college. If I'd have made some decisions that I may have had so I can go. I got a lot of regrets.
So like you said, you have a number of them. So there can be different types of regret. So what are some of the common types of regret that people may experience?
When I think about regrets, there are 3 or 4 areas I think about. Okay, I'll list them and kind of give you a definition. For example, there is action regret.
Okay.
In other words, action regret is you did something that you shouldn't have done.
Okay.
And we've all done some things that we shouldn't have done. Like when I first got married, my wife wasn't saved. I was saved. So I thought she was a heathen, and I thought I had it going on spiritually. I didn't know that I wasn't mature spiritually, and I had a lot of pride in me. So I was judging her for not being spiritual, and she wasn't saved. So that was an action that I did that I shouldn't have done, and I learned later how to evaluate my relationship with her and really self-evaluate. So some regret is something you did, action regret, that you shouldn't. Flip that. Some regrets are inaction. Okay, inaction is the regret or the disappointment that you have because you didn't do something that you should have done. And the classic illustration of that is my mother used to tell me to call her. Call her. Call me Mike sometime. Call me Mike sometime. But now I'm a young pastor and I'm moving and busy, and I'll call you, Mom. I'll call you, Mom. I loved her. She loved me, took it for granted, and she died. Okay. Now, that was a missed opportunity. That was something I should have done that I didn't. I think we all, thirdly, experience relationship regret. And I want to ask you some regrets about that. Okay. But relationship regret is your disappointment over how a relationship failed or something you did or something, in that situation that impacted the relationship in a negative way. And then finally, I think there are regrets that I'm going to make up a title of this regret.
Okay.
I call it others regret.
Okay.
It's regret concerning what others didn't do or what others should have done or what others did. For example, you were raised in a single family home and you didn't know your dad or you didn't have a relationship with your dad. Well, that wasn't your fault, and it probably was not something you could control. Yeah. But you regret that your dad wasn't in your life. But that's not something you did. That's something your dad did or didn't do.
Okay, so for the people who are watching, I want you to help us take some notes. So you said that there are you mentioned 4 types of regret. You said there's action regret.
Right.
There's inaction
regret.
There's relationship regret. And then there's others regret.
What I'm calling others regret. What they did or what they should have done, but didn't do.
Because you've led people for a number of years, you've pastored a number of years. If you had to sum up what is one that people are challenged with the most, which one would you say? I know it's tons. It's kind of hard to say.
I would say, if I had to pick one, I would say relationship regret. And the reason I would say relationship regret, now I could have picked action regret.
Yeah.
I could have picked that they were running together. But I picked relationship regret because we began life in relationships. You know what I mean? As kids, we got parents, we got siblings, we got all kinds of stuff. We have relationships in school, we have relationships at work. It's just all a part of our life. And so much of life is not just about what we do or don't do. Much of life is also about our interaction with people.
Okay, so we talk about relationship regret.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you talk about regret? Okay, you talked about school regret. You're showing in relationship regrets. You can let us in. You have a very interesting.
I do have an interesting. So again, as I was thinking about this topic, I started counting numbers. It's been 15 years since I was engaged. So if you don't know, I was engaged 15 years ago.
I'm quite sure they don't know you were engaged.
Okay, so I got engaged 15 years ago. It's funny because I called off the engagement one day before my best friend got married, and then 2 days before Mike and Michelle got married. So 2 days of going to people's wedding, and I done called off the engagement. And I was thinking in my head, what was I thinking?
Okay, let me ask you a question about that.
Okay.
Do you have any regrets about that wedding dress?
So what he's referring to is I wanted this wedding dress. Again, I was in Miami.
Miami?
Yes. And I was
expensive wedding dress.
Yes, it was in the area of Coral Gables. I was like, ooh, this dress is so beautiful. Of course, it's Miami. I'm like, I'm not going to find nothing like this in Alabama. And so I was like, I have to get this dress.
I have to have this dress.
And the dress was like $5,000. Yeah. Why? I don't know.
And let's back up now. That's years ago. For $5,000 was much bigger at that time.
Right. Would I pay that again? Absolutely not. my thoughts of weddings and all of that stuff has changed. And I don't knock people who do it. Like, if you have it, you can do it. But I just think that's a lot for one day.
Let's talk about that. That's regret. So now you change your thinking about that. So.
And I don't know if it's, okay, so I don't know if my regret thinking has changed because of the experience.
Okay.
Or because I've gotten older.
And mature.
And I think, I don't know if it's necessarily mature. Okay. I just feel like you don't see older people doing all of that. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's necessarily because of that than that. So I would say I kind of thought about the engagement. Did I regret it? I was kind of thinking, like, some of the stuff I felt like I didn't want to deal with. I was like, after 15 years, you were like, maybe I could have dealt with it a little bit. So you had those moments where you think stuff like that.
What you introduced is, I think some of our regrets, and really regrets are usually connected to mistakes or missed opportunities, as you mentioned.
Right.
I think many mistakes, which leads to regret, has to do with immaturity. It really does. Most people don't wake up in the morning. They don't wake up in the morning thinking, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm just going to make a mistake, and then I'm going to regret it, and then I'm going to feel embarrassed, and I'm going to feel shame, I'm going to feel guilt. No. Really, mistakes are a part of life. Everybody make mistakes. I think mistakes and regrets are inevitable. Okay, I don't think it's possible to go through life, never make a mistake, and never have any regrets. For example, when I say many mistakes are related to immaturity, okay, as a young pastor, I remember making a really big mistake. At the time, I thought it was right. I thought it was the right thing. I'm embarrassed to say I did this. I'm very embarrassed, so please give me a little, that's 40 years ago. 40 years ago, 39, 35, and over the years I've grown. But early, we had some teenagers that got pregnant, girls that got pregnant. Now, normally we remove the kids or whoever get pregnant out of wedlock. We don't ban them from service ever, no, but we remove them because think about it, how that's impact. They're walking around, they pregnant and stuff, and everybody know they're not married. And so we're trying to protect the integrity of the church, although the only difference between a young lady getting pregnant out of wedlock is that it's apparent, it's visible, you can see it. So you can see the flaw in the decision I made right away.
Right.
Because she didn't get pregnant by herself, and sometimes it may be somebody that's not a guy that's not even a member of the church. I not only remove that person from being able to function temporarily, I set the parents down.
You set the parents
down? Yes, I did. I set the parents down. It was.
Wait, what?
Yes. Now I'm embarrassed. I'm 20-something. No background, no training, nothing. And my whole thinking was, I want to protect the integrity of the church. I want an environment where we're living what we're preaching and all that. I know that's stupid. I know it's stupid. Sometimes you make mistakes when you're younger or inexperienced, where you wouldn't make that same mistake. Later on, remember the time, let's get off that because that's too embarrassing. You remember the time that I I spank you and Mike about them cookies.
Yes.
Tell the audience about that.
You spanked the wrong child, and you thought your perfect angel son didn't do anything.
There was some Oreo cookies.
Some Oreo cookies, and they was missing. And it went till years later until your oldest son, the pastor of Faith Chapel, confessed.
You know, we had bought some cookies. I don't think I was that strict, but we had bought some cookies, and I told y'all don't eat the cookies. I mean, don't eat the cookies. I mean, don't eat the cookies. I mean, there's a time for us to eat the cookies. I looked up, the wrapper open, and went in there and ate the cookies.
Let me ask you about that. What made you say, let me go to the grocery store, buy a whole nother pack of cookies to compare and line them up to see how many cookies are missing?
Hey, listen. Okay, I got to give them the whole story. Okay, so I went to you and Mike, y'all kids, and I said, well, who ate the cookies? You know, because the cookies missing. And I said, well, I told y'all not to eat the cookies. And both of you, oh no, I didn't eat the cookies. I didn't eat the cookies. So I wanted to prove to you all that cookies was missing. So I went and bought another thing of cookies and counted the cookies out and showed you all. Listen, somebody's ate the cookies. Now, here's the mistake that I made. Because, you know, parents make mistakes too. You know, that's the whole bottom line. Parents make mistakes too. The mistake that I made is
you assumed that your son was the angel.
I assumed that Tiffany ate the cookies.
Yeah.
The reason why I assume you ate the cookies.
Because I had a natural gift of eating.
She had a natural gift of eating. Tiffany, she's a little kid. Now, she's a little kid. She would eat breakfast, and she would say, I mean, even before she finished breakfast, what are we going to eat for lunch? She was always talking about eating and eating all the time. Tiffany had such an obsession with food. I thought something was wrong with my baby. I thought, oh, Lord, do we need to pray for her? Does she need help? She thought about food all the time. So in my mind, and I think Pete pretty much agreed with me, although I was messing this up myself, I said, Tiffany ate them cookies. I know she ate the cookies. So I gave him another choice. And Mike sitting up there, I don't know anything about the cookies. And Tiffany, I honestly believe, don't know whether she ate the cookies. This child, I honestly believe she don't know whether she ate the cookies.
I had to think about it.
Hey, listen, she looking like with a glazed look on her face. She don't know whether she ate the cookies or not. That is sad. Years later, we was over our God family house. Mike is what?
He got convicted
is he in
by
college?
the Spirit.
What is it? Was he in college?
I think he was in high school. He may have been in college.
He may have been in college.
Yeah.
We sitting at the table.
And he just come out.
And Mike came out. This is Pastor Michael K. Moore. Some of you that listening is your pastor.
And I got a whooping.
And I with both of them. He came up out of the clear blue. We not talking about those cookies. Listen, it's years later. And Mike said, I ate the He said, I ate the cookies.
Yeah.
I said, you ate the cookies and sit up there and let me whoop your sister?
He had to pay me, I think. He had to pay me some money for that.
Oh, did he pay you?
Yeah, he ended up paying me some money for that.
You know, we all do stuff like that.
Yeah. So going back, so let me give y'all some hot tea. Now this is some hot tea. We take.
Is this hot?
Yeah, we take.
This right off the press.
This off the press.
Is this factual?
Yeah, it's factual.
Okay.
We take you in a different direction. So you talked about, and I'm confident in it, so it don't bother me. You talked about how you sat down girls who had got pregnant, right?
And their parents.
And their parents. Did that experience change? Because some of you may or may not know, I had got pregnant at one time in my life.
Okay.
Did that experience change how you felt about people who have children who get pregnant?
Well,
out of wedlock?
I don't know if that experience changed. I changed. As you know, Here I am in my early 20s. I'm pastoring a church. Had no business really pastoring a church. You know, to be honest with you, I didn't meet the biblical qualification. I think I had a call on my life. I had no training. And so you make decisions as a pastor in relations to your knowledge base and in relations to your connection with mentors or what we call fathers in the faith. You basically mimic people that you look up to.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, I didn't have a hands-on mentor. I didn't have Dr. Price, who became my father in the faith, was in California. I'm in Birmingham. So I didn't have a personal mentor that I could bounce things off and what do you think about this and what do you think about this decision. I didn't have that. So I was functioning out of the limited knowledge that I have and zeal, and mostly zeal. I wanted to please God. I wanted the church to be real. I didn't want us to just be talking and preaching something and not be what we're being. I wanted people to have confidence in the church. So it was just growing, you know what I mean, and learning and loving people and caring about people and gaining wisdom.
Yeah.
I didn't know the difference between leadership and preaching. I knew none of that. So I don't think it was your experience of getting pregnant. I think it was just growth. You know what I mean? You grow. And you may need to mention that because you had you lost that baby.
Miscarriage, yeah.
You had a miscarriage.
Now, when you think about regret, it can be very overwhelming. And I'm pretty sure as people are listening to the podcast, they're like, okay, yeah, I've had a lot of regrets. And I think something automatically comes to their mind when they hear the word regret. So there are examples in the Bible, like when Moses killed the person, he went into the wilderness for 40 years and he had regret, and it hindered him from walking out in his calling. But one thing about that Moses situation, and there's other examples, because you also going to talk about Peter as well, but in the instance with Moses, when he was off, do you think that God can use those moments of regret to grow us, to help us become better in life?
Well, I want to clarify that. I want to say yes and no. Okay. But I don't want anyone listening to us to think that either God caused that or God wanted this to happen to train us or to teach us. No, God will operate in the context of our decisions because we're free moral agents. We can decide to do this, decide to do this. God didn't want me to make those dumb mistakes. And I can name 20, 30, hundreds of mistakes that I made as a pastor. God didn't want me to make those mistakes. Now, in answering your question, he will operate to bring out the best in our mistakes if we're willing to grow from, if we're willing to learn from them, if we're willing to grow from them, if we're willing to acknowledge and accept responsibility, then God will take those things and really help us to be better. Yeah. But he needs our cooperation because you talked about David. David committed adultery. You talked about Moses. Moses killed a man. Okay. He didn't want to go back to Egypt after he left.
Right.
You know, he regretted it. He didn't want to go back.
Right.
And so God had to work with him. And a part of that is forgiveness, self-forgiveness, self-compassion. David, it was terrible what David did. Yeah. He committed adultery with a man's wife, then had the man killed, then took the man's wife, married the man's wife. That's terrible. Yeah. I mean, think about that. That's terrible. Yet he accepted responsibility. You know, he accepted ownership. Yeah. He acknowledged it before God. He repented. He changed his mind. He was willing to do something different. Yeah. So, yes, God can take it, but it's not just God taking it. It's something that we have to do
Yeah.
that enables God, because God forgives us like that. Okay, we don't earn God's forgiveness. He forgives us like that. But if we're going to really find peace in it and move forward, it's some things we have to do.
Yeah. So, okay. So when we talk about regret, it can be overwhelming. We talked about how it's a weight. It can feel like that. So let's talk about some action steps that people can do to overcome the overwhelming feeling of regret. I know in the Answers That Work episode that is going to be airing this Thursday, you use the example of Peter being bit by the snake. So what are some ways, or with that example, how can we use that to help us overcome the overwhelming feeling of regret?
Okay. It really, and are we talking about resolving it now? Okay, and moving forward.
And moving forward.
Well, I think we have to kind of evaluate the nature of the regret. Okay, remember we said action regret is something I did but I shouldn't have, and then sometimes it's something that I should have done but I didn't.
Right.
Okay. Or relationship regret, or something somebody else did. Well, depending on the nature of it, it helps us to understand what we should do. For example, if I did something I shouldn't have done, then I need to accept responsibility.
So that would be the action. I did something that I shouldn't have done.
Right.
That's
I
an action
acknowledge
regret.
it, that I did it. I don't justify it. I don't blame somebody else. I accept responsibility. I did that. If I did it against a person, and if it's possible, then I offer a sincere apology to the person. Now, notice I say if possible, and you ask the person to forgive you.
Right.
If it's possible, and then if it's possible, I make restitution in a way, like if I borrowed some money from somebody that didn't pay it, then you should be working to try to pay some of that money back. Okay?
Wouldn't that be the same for a person who made a mistake and harmed themselves? So self-forgiveness would be a part of that action regret?
Right.
So let's say if they made a choice and they started using drugs, or they was in the wrong place at the wrong, like they did something they knew they weren't supposed to do, but the action is something they have to forgive themselves for.
Right, because see, think about it. Remember I said, if possible, do this. Okay, if I should have called my mother, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Or I should have been a better dad to my kid, or I was not in the life of my children. Now I regret that.
Yeah.
I came into the knowledge of the truth. I say if possible. The reason I say if possible, because what if my mama died? Okay, my mother died.
Right.
Okay, I can't go and say, I'm sorry, I apologize, forgive me. You know, I can't do it because it's not possible. So it may not even be possible for you to contact a person. So that's where you got to ask God to forgive you, which He's already done, but for your sake, and then you have to forgive yourself.
Yeah. And that's a tough one, I think, for a lot of people.
That's a tough one. That can be a very tough one. I've seen parents that made mistakes as parents. Let's use a father. I've seen men come in our church. They weren't good daddies. They weren't in their child's life. Some of them weren't even paying child support. Okay? Well, once people come into the knowledge of the truth, maybe now I can't change the past. And then sometimes I can't deal with the person, okay? But I can do what I can about the present, okay? Okay, I didn't do what I'm supposed to do as a parent. What can I do now? Is there anything I can do now?
So is this kind of like a renewal of the mind process? Because basically...
And we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, so if you've made the mistake, it can be overwhelming because you can be constantly thinking about it. And in some cases, like you said, you can't change the outcome. The outcome is already... So let's say a parent wasn't around for their child and then they're older. So how do they renew their mindset of that regret that is unchangeable, but they still need to move forward and not stay stuck?
Okay, if the child is alive and you have some connection and you're able to communicate, You ask that kid forgiveness. You call them. You say, I'm sorry. You say, I made a mistake or whatever. And if you owe child support, you start paying that child support. It may be tough for you, but that's your integrity because you know better now. So you're going to try to do what's better. And then you forgive yourself.
Right.
Okay, you're trying to make restitution if possible, and then you forgive yourself. And then I think there are two things. There are two things. Number one, okay, let's learn from it. Okay, what can I learn from? Why did I do that?
Yeah.
Why did I not call my mom? Because I took her for granted. That's why I didn't. I took it for granted that she was gonna always be there. What can I learn from that? Don't take my relationships for granted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't change that, but now, okay, I got a wife, I got kids. I don't take them for granted. Don't just think they're going to always be there. I'm learning from it, okay? I made this mistake. I evaluate I did. I don't want to do that anymore, so I'm not going to do that anymore. And then I grow from it, and the way to grow from it is now I'm going to do some things different. I'm going to do some things different. And that's what I did as a pastor.
Yeah.
I look back on that dumb stuff I made. I can't go back and say I'm sorry to everybody because some people not even alive. So I don't even know where everybody is. There was no way to do that. Okay, I'm going to learn from it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be praying. I'm going to be bouncing things off. I'm going to have somebody I can talk to. What would you do in this situation? And then I'm learning about leadership because, see, now I want to grow. I want to grow from, I don't want to be that same person that was doing dumb stuff. Let's say, for example, you've been in 3 marriages. You still want to be married. You don't have to not get married because you messed up in 3 marriages. And usually it's mutual, but you don't have to say, I'm never going to get married because I messed up. No. Learn from that. What did you do wrong? What can you change? You can do something right. And then you have to, at some point, you got to move on. You got to, see, if God forgives you, you tried to do better, you're learning, you're trying to change, then somewhere you can't be fixated on what you did wrong, because now the devil going to jump in there. And he going to keep reminding. He going to replay the thing in your mind.
So for our audience listening, I want to give you some action steps. We're in the new year, 2025.
Wait. I want to ask you some questions.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you can give you action steps.
Okay.
What advice would you give to the audience? Because we all have some situations that we regret. What advice would you give them?
My advice would be don't allow the regret to keep you stuck looking back.
Okay.
Because a lot of times regret, it'll make you have shoulda, coulda, woulda, if I shoulda, coulda, if I woulda did certain things, and you can't go back into time. So it would be just recognizing that you did make a mistake, again, asking God to forgive you or forgive yourself for some of the choices that you made. And then also being mindful of who God is, because I think a lot of times when people have regret, they think that that's the period of their story, but God has more for their story, and so God says that He'll.
So that's a comma.
It's a comma.
It's not a period.
Right, and He says that He'll restore the years that were lost. So if you look at it as just a period, God can't restore stuff. But if you look at it as a comma, you know that God says that He will restore the years that was lost. So just remembering that who He is He's never changed, and so you have to, trust Him to that.
Gotcha. So you're gonna give some action steps. Okay.
So my action steps.
Let's go back to your action steps
for 2025. If you are taking notes, the first thing that I want you to do is recognize what type of regret you may currently be dealing with. So it could be an action regret, inaction regret, relationship, or other regret. So that's the first step, recognizing what type of regret. The second thing is to forgive yourself or to forgive others. You want to make sure that you're doing.
Or ask others to forgive you.
Or asking others to forgive you. And then the third one that I would say for your action steps is to, how can I learn from those past mistakes that I made?
Yes.
That's your third action. And then 4, what can I do moving forward?
Yeah.
So those would be your homework items for you guys to kind of look over and think about, because what we want you to do is forget about the past and to move forward.
Well, we're near the end of this podcast, but I want to reiterate why we decided to talk about regret. Mm-hmm. And remember, I'm going to be teaching on Answers That Work. Thursday, we move Answers That Work from Friday to Thursdays at noon Central Time, and so you can get it online. But I'm going to be just teaching about it. I wanted us to be able to discuss it because there were things that came out of my life and came out of Tiffany's life about this regret thing that won't come out of my teaching. So I wanted to talk about it because this is 2025. And I believe your best days are ahead. I don't care what you did in the past. I don't care what somebody did to you in the past. God has a wonderful plan for your life. And I speak prophetically to you that this year is going to be one of the best years of your life. You're going to be moving forward. You're going to be moving up. You're going to win. And what we did not want you to be taking stuff from 2024 and your past and your history over into this brand new year. We didn't want that. So that's why we put this podcast up front. So listen, we're going to take off. We're going to go in another direction. Anything else, Tiff?
As always, if you found that this video is helpful, please be sure to share it, like it, and then please be sure to subscribe to the Mike Moore Ministries YouTube channel.
And go back and listen to it again. Share it.
Yes.
Listen, I think that was a good subject.
That was good.
I learned something about you.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad.
And
we got more to come.
I bet you learned something. Listen, we love you. This is How to Win. I'm Mike Moore. This is my daughter, Tiffany. We love you, and you always win in Christ, and we'll see you next time.